95% of all engine failures are because of bad maintenance. Most people think they immediately need a mechanic when their engine isn't performing like it used to be. But that is far from the truth. Today, I'll reveal maintenance tips that mechanics don't want you to know. From using WD-40 the right way to resetting your car, these are the tips mechanics don't want you to know. Without wasting more time, let's start with tip number 17. Use WD-40 on spark plug threads. Here's a trick that'll blow your mind and save you from snapped spark plugs. Before installing new spark plugs, spray a tiny bit of WD-40 on the threads. Not the electrode, just the threads. But here's what they don't tell you. This prevents them from seizing in the aluminum head like they're welded in place. I've seen mechanics spend 4 hours drilling out broken spark plugs because some genius over-tightened them without any anti-seize. That's a $600 labor charge for what WD-40 could have prevented. The penetrating oil creates a barrier that lets you remove plugs easily years later without turning your cylinder head into Swiss cheese. Just remember, spray the threads, wipe off the excess, and hand tighten plus a quarter turn. Your future self will thank you when those plugs come out like butter instead of snapping off like breadsticks. But here's the kicker. There's something even more powerful that can double your engine's lifespan with just one bottle. Tip number 16, run quality fuel additives monthly. Forget what the dealership tells you about top-tier gas being enough, but here's the truth. Modern direct injection engines are carbon magnets, and that buildup chokes performance faster than you think. Once a month, dump a bottle of quality fuel system cleaner in your tank. But let's be honest, I'm not talking about the $3 snake oil from the gas station. Get something like Techron, Lucas, or BG44K. These actually dissolve carbon deposits on intake valves and injectors. I've seen cars gain 20 horsepower and improve fuel economy by 15% just from cleaning out the gunk. Here's the irony. You're doing this while driving normally. No expensive shop visits, no engine teardowns. Just pour, fill up, and let chemistry do the work. Seriously, who has time for an $800 carbon cleaning service when a $12 bottle does the same thing? But wait until you hear about something that gets neglected until it fails catastrophically. Tip number 15, flush brake fluid. Every 2 years, your brake fluid is slowly turning into water, and that's terrifying. Brake fluid absorbs moisture from the air, and after 2 to 3 years, it can contain enough water to boil under hard braking. But here's the catch. When brake fluid boils, you get vapor bubbles and total brake failure. New DOT3 fluid boils at 401 Fahrenheit, but here's what they don't tell you. Contaminated fluid can boil at under 284 Fahrenheit. Now imagine mountain driving, towing, or even aggressive city driving. Your brake temps can easily hit those numbers. Use a $20 brake fluid tester to check moisture content. If it's over 3%, flush it immediately. I've seen too many accidents that could have been prevented with fresh brake fluid. Because when your brakes fail, it's not just your wallet that's in danger. And it gets worse. Here's a sensor that costs $150 to replace but takes 5 minutes to clean. Tip number 14, check and clean mass airflow sensor. The MAF sensor is your engine's nose. It tells the computer exactly how much air is coming in, so it can match the fuel perfectly. But here's the part most drivers miss. When it gets dirty, your engine starts guessing, and engines are terrible at guessing. The MAF sensor sits right in the airflow path, so it collects everything. Pollen, dust, oil vapors from the crankcase, even tiny particles from a dirty air filter. Just a film of contamination throws off its readings by huge margins. Your engine then runs rich or lean, wasting fuel and wearing out components faster. Remove the sensor, spray it with MAF cleaner. Never use brake cleaner, it'll fry the delicate wires. Let it dry and reinstall. I've seen cars go from running like garbage to purring like kittens with this simple cleaning. But let's call it what it really is. A $200 repair that's actually a $12 DIY job. Speaking of cheap fixes for expensive problems, here's a $15 valve that prevents thousands in engine damage. Tip number 13, replace PCV valve every 50,000 miles. The PCV valve might be the most ignored part under your hood, but here's the kicker. When it fails, your engine drowns in its own vapors. This little valve controls crankcase pressure and routes blow-by gases back into the intake to be burned. But when it sticks or clogs, pressure builds up inside the engine, forcing oil past seals and gaskets. I've seen engines leak oil from every possible joint because of PCV valve. Pull it out and shake it. you should hear a rattle. No rattle means it's stuck solid and needs replacing. Here's the irony. It literally snaps into a rubber hose. No tools required. Yet most people drive around with failed PCV valves, leaking oil all over their driveways, wondering why their engine is using a quart every 1,000 miles. But wait until you see this next part that can prevent expensive failures. Tip number 12. Replace fuel filter every 60,000 miles. Your fuel pump is trying to push gas through what's basically a coffee filter full of 80,000 miles worth of gas station crud. But here's what they don't tell you. Over time, that filter clogs up and your pump works harder and harder until it burns out. A $40 fuel filter can prevent a $1,000 fuel pump replacement. But here's the catch. Most people wait until their car starts starving for fuel before they even think about the filter. And by then, the pump is already damaged from overwork. Think about what flows through your gas tank. Water from condensation, dirt from storage tanks, rust particles from old fuel lines, and debris from gas station pumps. All of this settles in your filter over time. When restriction builds up, your fuel pump has to work against higher pressure, generating heat and wearing out faster. On older cars, it's usually under the hood or along the frame rail. Newer cars hide it in the tank, making it a bigger job. Either way, don't ignore it. Always relieve fuel pressure first by pulling the fuel pump fuse and running the engine until it dies. Now let's talk about a fluid that turns into liquid sandpaper if you ignore it. Tip number 11. Change transmission fluid every 60,000 miles. Most drivers ignore their transmission until it starts slipping. But here's the truth. By then, you're not fixing a problem. You're replacing a $4,000 chunk of metal. Transmission fluid doesn't just lubricate, it controls hydraulic pressure for every shift. Here's the trap. It still looks fine after 60,000 miles. Red, no burnt smell. But here's what they don't tell you. It's hiding a cocktail of clutch dust, metal shavings, and varnish that's grinding your gears to powder. It's basically liquid sandpaper by this point. Modern transmissions run hotter and work harder than ever before. They have more gears, tighter tolerances, and complex valve bodies with hundreds of tiny passages. When contaminated fluid flows through these intricate systems, it causes stick valves, worn clutches, and erratic shifting patterns that can't be fixed with fresh fluid. Never flush a neglected transmission. You'll wash out the sludge that's barely holding it together. Just drain and fill with the exact OEM fluid. Toyota WS for Toyotas, Honda ATF DW1 for Hondas. But let's be honest, who gambles with a $4,000 transmission over a $150 fluid change? And hey, if this kind of insider knowledge is saving you money, hit that like button and subscribe. We got 10 more, and number 1 is so useful it wipes every warning light on your dashboard and fixes it for free. Let's proceed. Tip number 10. Use the penny tire test. Forget fancy tire depth gauges. Grab a penny and stick Lincoln's head into your tire tread upside down. But here's the kicker. If you can see the top of his head, your tires are toast and dangerous. This works because the distance from Lincoln's head to the edge of the penny is exactly 2/32 of an inch, the legal minimum tread depth. But here's the pro move. Do this test in multiple spots across each tire. If one side is more worn, your alignment is off and you're burning rubber and gas. I've seen people drive on bald tires for months because they never checked. Don't be that person sliding into a ditch because you couldn't spare 30 seconds for the penny test. Most people don't realize that worn tires don't just affect stopping distance. They impact every aspect of driving safety. When tread depth drops below 432, wet weather performance plummets dramatically. At 232, you're essentially driving on racing slicks in the rain, which is about as smart as it sounds. The penny test also reveals uneven wear patterns that indicate bigger problems. Inner edge wear means alignment issues, center wear suggests overinflation, and outer edge wear points to underinflation or aggressive cornering. Each pattern tells a story about what's wrong with your car. And while we're talking about simple tests that reveal big problems, tip number 9, use an OBD2 scanner monthly. Your car knows when something's wrong before you do. But here's the part most drivers miss. Most folks wait until the check engine light comes on, or worse, until the car starts running rough. And by then, the damage is already spreading like cancer through your engine. That's where a $30 OBD2 scanner becomes your best friend. Plug it into the port under your dash once a month and scan for codes, whether you see a light or not. But here's what they don't tell you. Some issues don't light up the dash right away. You might have misfire counts building up, an O2 sensor getting lazy, or fuel trim drifting out of range. The scanner spots it before it turns into a repair bill. I've had customers tow cars in for sudden breakdowns, plugged in my scanner and found the problem had been creeping up for months. Modern cars store pending codes that haven't triggered the check engine light yet. These are like early warning signs that something's developing, but hasn't reached the threshold for a full alarm. Catching these early can mean the difference between a $50 sensor replacement and a $2,000 catalytic converter job. If they'd checked earlier, it would have been a $40 sensor instead of a $4,000 repair. Think of it like a monthly checkup for your car's brain. Here's a trick that can diagnose electrical problems without expensive scan tools. Tip number 8, the headlight dimming test. Your alternator might be dying, but here's the catch. Your dash lights won't tell you until it's too late. Here's how to catch it early. At night, turn on your headlights and rev the engine. If the lights get brighter as you rev, your alternator is weak and struggling to keep up. A healthy alternator should maintain steady voltage, regardless of RPM. But when dimming lights happen, it means you're running on borrowed time. I've seen people get stranded because they ignored this obvious sign for months. The alternator is one of those components that dies gradually, then suddenly. First, you might notice slightly dimmer lights. Then the radio cuts out occasionally. Then one day you're completely dead on the side of the road. What most people don't realize is that a failing alternator also damages your battery by undercharging it. The test works because a failing alternator can't maintain proper voltage under load. But let's call it what it really is. Better to replace a $200 alternator than get stuck with a dead battery in the middle of nowhere. Now here's something that can save your engine in seconds. Tip number 7, the 30-second warm-up rule. You think idling for 15 minutes warms up your engine? But here's the truth. That's not warming, it's slow death. After 30 seconds of idling, unburned fuel starts washing down your cylinder walls, stripping away the protective oil film. Start the car, wait 30 seconds, then drive gently for 2 miles. Oil temperature rises 8 times faster while driving than when idling. I've torn down engines where the oil was so fuel contaminated, it poured out like black water. The old advice about long warm-ups came from carbureted engines that needed time to reach operating temperature for proper fuel metering. Modern fuel injection adjusts automatically for cold conditions, so extended idling just wastes fuel and contaminates oil. Cold engines also produce more emissions during extended idling than during gentle driving. Real protection happens on the move, not in your driveway. This method also saves fuel and reduces emissions. But let's be honest, who still believes that 1950s warm-up advice in modern cars? Here's a sound that can save you thousands if you know what to listen for. Tip number 6, use WD-40 on tire sidewalls. Here's a trick that will make your tires look brand new and actually protect them from cracking. Spray WD-40 on a rag and wipe down your tire sidewalls once a month. But here's what they don't tell you. This isn't just about looks. Though your tires will shine like they just rolled off the showroom floor, WD-40 penetrates into the rubber and prevents the oxidation that causes those ugly brown streaks and premature cracking. UV rays and ozone in the air constantly attack your tire sidewalls, making them brittle and weak. I've seen tires develop sidewall cracks at 30,000 miles because people never protected them. One customer had a sidewall blowout that could have been prevented with this simple trick. The WD-40 keeps the rubber supple and extends tire life by years. Tire sidewall failure is one of the most dangerous blowouts because it happens instantly with no warning. Unlike tread separation that starts gradually, sidewall failure is catastrophic and can cause you to lose control immediately. This is especially dangerous at highway speeds where a sudden blowout can cause rollovers. Just don't spray it on the tread. You don't want slippery contact patches. Sidewalls only. Your tires will thank you, and so will your wallet when they last 20% longer. Now here's something that can double your AC performance for pocket change. Tip number 5, change your cabin air filter for ice-cold AC. Your AC is struggling not because the refrigerant is low, but here's the kicker. It's trying to push air through what's basically a dryer lint screen. Most people never change their cabin air filter, and after 20,000 miles, it's clogged with pollen, dust, leaves, and sometimes even dead mice. Here's the crazy part. A $15 cabin air filter can make your AC blow 30% colder. But when the filter is clogged, your blower motor works overtime, trying to push air through the blockage. Less airflow means less cooling, higher energy draw, and a burned-out blower motor. The filter is usually behind your glove box or under the hood near the windshield. Pop it out, and you'll be horrified at what's been living in there. I've pulled filters so nasty, they looked like carpet samples. Most people think weak AC means expensive refrigerant problems, but 90% of the time, it's just a clogged filter restricting airflow. When your blower motor has to work harder against the restriction, it draws more amperage and eventually burns out the resistor or motor itself. That's a $300 repair that a $15 filter could have prevented. Replace it twice a year, spring and fall. Your AC will blow Arctic cold, your blower motor will last longer, and you'll actually breathe clean air instead of whatever science experiment was growing in your old filter. Now here's a trick that can double your brake life. Tip number 4, the thermostat test. Want to know if your thermostat is working without removing it? Start with a cold engine and feel the upper radiator hose while the engine warms up. But here's what they don't tell you. It should stay cool until the engine reaches operating temperature, then suddenly get hot. If the hose gets warm immediately, your thermostat is stuck open and your engine will never reach proper operating temperature. But if it never gets hot, it's stuck closed and you're headed for an overheat. Most people don't realize that modern engines are designed to run at specific temperatures for optimal efficiency and emissions. When the thermostat sticks open, the engine runs too cool, causing the computer to run rich fuel mixtures that wash down cylinder walls and dilute the oil. This leads to premature wear and carbon buildup. A stuck-open thermostat kills fuel economy and increases emissions. But here's the kicker. A stuck-closed thermostat kills engines. Either way, it's a $15 part that can save you thousands in engine damage. Now here's a trick that can prevent the most expensive transmission failure. Tip number 3, use Lysol to kill AC mold. Your AC smells like a wet basement because there's a science experiment growing in your evaporator core. But here's what they don't tell you. When you shut off your AC, moisture sits in the system and breeds mold, mildew, and bacteria. That's what's making you sick every time you turn on the air. Here's the fix. Turn your AC to max cold, full blast, recirculate off. Then spray Lysol disinfectant into the fresh air intake vents near your windshield wipers. Let it run for 10 minutes. The Lysol gets sucked through the entire system, killing everything living in there. The evaporator core is the perfect breeding ground for microorganisms. It's dark, moist, and warm. When you breathe this contaminated air, it can trigger allergies, respiratory issues, and mysterious headaches that doctors can't explain. Some people develop what they think are seasonal allergies when it's actually mold exposure from their car's AC system. I've seen people spend $300 on AC deodorizing services when a $4 can of Lysol does the same job. The smell disappears, your air quality improves, and you stop getting mysterious headaches from breathing mold spores. Do this twice a year, spring and fall. Your lungs and your wallet will thank you. But let's call it what it really is. Who pays $300 to clean something you can disinfect yourself? Here's a test that can catch head gasket failure before it's too late. Tip number 2, the combustion leak test. Want to catch a blown head gasket before your engine becomes scrap metal? Look for bubbles in your coolant reservoir while the engine runs. Remove the radiator cap, only when cold, and watch for bubbles streaming up. But here's the truth. No bubbles should appear in a healthy cooling system. If you see them, combustion gases are leaking into the coolant, which means your head gasket is failing. This test catches the problem before you see white smoke or lose coolant. Head gasket failure often starts small and gets worse gradually. First, you might notice tiny bubbles occasionally. Then it becomes constant bubbling. Then you start losing coolant, and finally you get the dreaded white smoke. Each stage represents more damage and higher repair costs. I've seen people ignore this sign for months until their engine overheated and warped the head. But here's the kicker. A $1,200 head gasket job becomes a $4,000 engine rebuild real quick. And now, the number 1 tip that costs absolutely nothing but prevents every catastrophic failure. Tip number 1. The ECU reset trick that fixes everything. Your car's computer is dumber than you think, and sometimes it just needs a good old-fashioned reboot. When your car starts acting weird, rough idle, poor fuel economy, sluggish shifts, or random electrical gremlins. Try this before you spend thousands at the shop. Disconnect the battery for exactly 15 minutes. Not 5, not 30, exactly 15. But here's what they don't tell you. This forces the ECU to dump all its learned adaptations and start fresh. Your car will literally forget its bad habits and relearn how to run properly. I've seen this fix everything from transmission shift problems to engine hesitation that stumped mechanics for weeks. One customer was quoted $2,800 for transmission work when all his car needed was a reset. After 15 minutes with the battery disconnected, it shifted like new. The ECU constantly adapts to your driving style and component wear. Sometimes those adaptations go wrong, especially after repairs or part replacements. Modern cars learn everything from your driving habits to compensating for worn sensors. But sometimes these learned values become corrupted or stuck in bad patterns. Here's the irony. The ECU constantly adapts to your driving style and component wear. Sometimes those adaptations go wrong, especially after repairs or part replacements. A reset costs nothing and can save you thousands in unnecessary repairs. Just remember to have your radio code ready, and don't blame me when your seat memories are gone. But let's call it what it really is. Small price to pay for a car that runs like it just rolled off the assembly line. Let me know in the comments. Which of these tips shocked you the most? Which have you already known? Now, did you know there are tricks that mechanics don't want you to know can save you a lot of money? Click the video on screen now and learn how to never get ripped off again.